what comes to your minds when you think about childhood? Is it running around, playing games, climbing trees, playing in the mud, in the rain? A very carefree life, perhaps. This is not what I imagine. This is not what I witnessed. Children who have lost their parents to HIV and AIDS-related illnesses are being discriminated and excluded from society.
Yui. Nayo mai kudzai. Ndio mashurapa unonditira pamusha nawo. Wakutotora nherera dzese dzekutidza kwenyu kundogisa pamusha pano. Wakakanwaka kuti vana ava vabereki vavo vakafa neAIDS. Usada kundivhirikidzira vana pamusha pano.
Am I to blame? Would it be better if I just died?
Oh, look, there she comes. Let's move away. My mother told me not to play with her.
I feel alone. Will anyone ever care for me?
Oh, asikana, hona kusiririsa. Zvino manje mai nababa zvavafa neAIDS. There's no hope, asikana.
Am I limited? Is there really no life ahead of me?
Unfortunate, isn't it, that children have to go through this on a day-to-day basis. Stigma and discrimination is a common reality in Zimbabwe, and I am no exception. I grew up as an orphan who was born HIV positive, and I was discriminated. The very first remark that I remember was, "You are to blame. How else could you have contracted HIV if you are not sleeping around?" My peers, the community around me, all said something negative, and I took it all in. At some point, I was depressed, and I decided to stop my antiretroviral therapy, which was not a good thing because this is a life-threatening circumstance. It will actually hinder your health. I started losing weight. I started getting sick constantly, and I started wasting away. I was so depressed that death became my only prayer. I decided that I wanted to end it all. Though I never got the courage, I decided that I would continue praying for it. Unfortunately, or maybe should I say fortunately, that never happened. My prayer was never answered. I had to move on. The journey to self-recovery was not easy. It was very long. And one of the first steps I took was enroll in a peer support group where I got to talk to people who were facing similar circumstances as me, people who had actually overcame the challenges that I was facing. And talking to them actually helped me recover. Another thing that I did was volunteer at a local children's home. Here, I was expecting to see despair, lack of joy. But what I was met with was resilience, strength, and happiness. And this was with children who had disabilities, chronic illnesses, children who had been completely abandoned by their relatives, and in some cases, their parents. Yes, their parents, because some of them actually had parents to speak of. I was motivated because these children had high hopes for their lives. They were resilient and had aspirations. And because of this, I decided that, I can actually meaningfully contribute to their lives. So why am I thinking that death is the only answer? And this is how I managed to get back and actually determine that I would work with vulnerable children in the rural community of Zimbabwe. Here, I met Nometa. Nometa is a 13-year-old girl. She is the head of a family, taking care not only of her needs, but those of her younger siblings, Thomas and Yokai, who are 8 and 9 years old. Without access to money, they survive on charity, which means sometimes they don't have any food to eat, or they lack adequate access to quality education, healthcare, decent shelter, to mention but a few. Living in the most secluded parts of society as a child-headed family means that they have no one to support them, no one to care for them. They are completely alone. What was truly heartbreaking for me was that the very people who are supposed to be taking care of orphans like Lometa actually sexually exploit her in order for her to get the basic needs she needs to prepare a meal for herself and her siblings. Sad reality is the orphans in Zimbabwe oftentimes are being abused sexually, emotionally, physically by the very caregivers who are supposed to be taking care of them. They are being neglected, left alone without anyone to care for them. This is the situation. With this in mind, I resolved that I would create a place where orphans could be free to be cared for, a place where they could realize their full potential, be supported, and be loved. This is how I founded Mukundi. With Mukundi, what we hope for is a world where orphans grow up accessing their needs, but also becoming self-reliant individuals. And this will be done under a 5-pillar care model that is following the following pillars. Pillar number 1, health and wellness. Here, we want our beneficiaries to be able to access health, shelter, education. We want them to be able to be part of family, to have a place where they belong. Pillar number 2, exploration. Here, we want our beneficiaries to be able to form their own individual opinions that are not biased by what the outside world thinks. Here, they will be doing this by exploring different realities. Let's talk of culture, way of life, science, information technology, you mention it. And it will be done in an interactive game, in an interactive way, through games, fun, sporting activities, dance, art. This will also enhance other skills in our beneficiaries. Let's talk of hard skills, soft skills, interpersonal skills, skills such as decision-making, problem-solving, independent thinking. And these skills will help them transition to the 3rd pillar. Pillar number 3, enhanced competences. Here, we want our beneficiaries to get a taste of what it is to live independently, a taste of what it is to actually put the skills that they have developed in all these other pillars to use. And this will be done by actually living in tiny homes where resources will be given to them, but they will be free to live and to determine their own lives within these tiny homes. Moving on, we'll move on to pillar number 4, integration. Here, under this pillar, we want our beneficiaries to participate in society. We want them to be able to determine what their place is in society. And this will actually be done by community engagement projects, sometimes with other marginalized groups in society. Why marginalized groups in society? This will help them to become more empathetic to other people's needs and to also understand that they can meaningfully contribute to other people's lives. Summing up, we come to the pillar number 5, self-actualization. Here, we bring all the pillars together. Here, our beneficiaries will be able to answer to the very definition of what Mukundi means. They will be able to say, I am able to cope in the face of adversity. Even though I'm being discriminated and stigmatized, I can stand and actually become resilient. Here, our beneficiaries will transition to be resilient individuals with futures that they can determine for themselves. Can we all agree that children, regardless of their HIV status, deserve a carefree life?
Am I to blame? Would it be better if I just died?
You are not to blame. Together, let us overcome barriers and create futures.
I feel alone. Will anyone ever care for me?
Mukundi cares. You are not alone.
Am I limited? Is there really no life ahead of me?
You are not at all limited. Let us exceed societal expectations. Building on these blocks, what Mukundi proposes is a solution where our orphans grow up in an environment where they are cared for, loved and supported, an environment that allows them to develop their full potential and become resilient individuals who can determine the futures for themselves. Together, we can join hands and actually create such environments. Join us today as we go on this lifelong commitment. Thank you.